Are you daring enough to leap into uncharted waters? Are you a procrastinator? Look, take a 360 degrees review of your actions or inactions, and you discover some of the usual alibis for procrastination. For instance, I'm not well prepared. I haven't got the support of others. What might people say? The fear of criticism. Remember, the only thing standing between you and your desires is your very own willpower. President Kennedy famously said, "We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy. It's because they are hard. Because the goal will serve to organize the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept and one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win." Keys for winning in uncharted waters: openness of the body and mind and soul. Oneness of body, mind, and soul. Oneness of body, mind, and soul. Also, preparedness. Okay, this includes the quality of the information you have, whether it's also training and vocation. And we talk about practice. It's your level of practice. How much practice have you put into what you're intending to do? Okay. And third is hunger and thirst for overcoming challenges. What is your propensity? What is your drive for overcoming challenges? You must have a strong propensity for overcoming challenges. Your strong awareness of purpose. You see, a lot of people you come across these days, they haven't really known, they don't truly know their purpose. You see, purpose, when you are aware that this thing is my purpose, you go into it. You give everything into it. It's like really 100%. Yeah? An unwavering commitment to purpose. You see, it's one thing to be aware of your purpose, but it's a whole different level to have an unwavering commitment to that purpose. All right? And then understanding the elements of the earth and make them work for you. So it's about your studying your environment. Sun Tzu, in his writing in The Art of War, did a lot of writing concerning using the atmosphere, the environment, the terrain. Okay, let the terrain work for you. Let your environment work for you. These things in every environment, don't allow the environment to play against you. Use that environment to work for you. And also the art of secrecy, stealth, and surprise. Also, Sun Tzu wrote a lot about that in The Art of War. Stealth, secrecy, and surprise. There are certain things in life, when you're doing them, just keep them quiet until you achieve what you intend. If you speak to someone, there must be people who you truly, truly know could help you. Okay? And just keep doing that. And so quite recently, talking about deep diving in uncharted waters, quite recently I was out on my morning walk and I saw a duck floating nicely on top of this pond, and you know, those artificial lake, and it was floating really nice. But you know, everyone, when you see a duck on top on a pond, you think, you know, it's all nice and beautiful, but underneath there actually, but on top of that, what anyone with an untrained eye could see is the serenity, the quietness, the peace, the comfort. The dog was really in his comfort zone. Okay? And it was just like that. It was in his comfort zone and it was truly, truly lovely. But I'm telling you, and this is the kind of thing that David Goggin, famous in his quote, he said, you are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you die without ever realizing your true potential. A lot of people have been caught in this type of situation. They're in a job that they now feel so comfortable. They're in a kind of business that in that area where they operate, they're the only person that does that kind of business, and they feel so comfortable operating from that zone, and they don't want to take any challenge, you know. But I'm saying, from time to time, it is really valuable for one to challenge themselves and jump in uncharted waters. Okay? Swim among the crocs, for example. Okay? For example, you know, the animals that cross the Serengeti. It's a bold move. And some of these animals, if you see the journey they make from where they get from to getting to the Serengeti, and they have to make that journey because they are quite different from humans. Because with animals, they have to make that journey. They have to move in uncharted waters while keeping eyes wide open in anticipation of a meal, but also being aware of the truth that they could end up becoming a bowl of soup, or ending in a bowl of soup for a lion or a croc somewhere, or for a poacher. Okay? Or what about working in a country where you're amongst the minority? What about starting a business without all the necessary support, or being disadvantaged by hereditary background? What about trying to do something new, wherein your greatest and most formidable nemesis is your own mind? You see, your mind has the tactical advantage over you. A mind that has been programmed with self-doubt, low self-esteem, is a formidable killer of dreams. Uncharted waters. Animals are primarily predictable, and this is one of the biggest differences between animals and humans. Okay? They are primarily predictable and are generally settled in their environment. However, predictability does not diminish the risk taken, because they do take the risk, but because nature, who is a very, very tough taskmaster, at the same time a very loving taskmaster, pushes them and gives them no alternative but to move. Okay? Animals could act with the known knowns in mind. That is, I believe animals innately are aware of the danger ahead, whilst bearing in mind that the possibility that any unknown could happen at any time between when the animal leaped into the water and when coming out, if it ever did. For instance, the wildebeest, the wildebeest migration, and this is an annual event where millions of graceful animals, along with the zebras and so other, animals, and wildebeest and all that, they migrate across the plains of East Africa, mainly in the Tanzanian Serengeti to Kenya Masai Mara. And it's quite a journey, but they have to make that move. But the move, even though they have to make the move for food, they are aware of, because some of these animals have done that journey a couple of times, so they are now innately aware of the challenge. But nature has programmed them to make the move. So they don't have the reason power of humans, where as a human, you can think and you can postpone, you can procrastinate, you'll be fully aware, you can put it off. With animals, they don't have that luxury. So during this process, it should be noted that there are other powerful stakeholders. So when an animal decides to move from the Serengeti in Tanzania to the Masai Mara in Kenya. They are stakeholders along the way who know for certain the season for feasting is at hand, which finally brings an end to the long period not having enough, you know. So there are times for guys like lions, hyenas and all that. There are times when it could be really challenging to have a meal. But when it's time for this migration, they know the time for abundance is there. And so in life, whenever you are taking that leap, be aware of your environment. Know that there are people in the environment that you're going in or the business you're about to start who are embracing and getting themselves ready, knowing that, yes, it's time for me to bully this guy. It's time for us to snuff him out of the business. It's time for us to take him out, you know. And they're not going to present things for you on a silver platter. Remember, even if you have people who vouch for you, even if you have people who vouch for you, there will be those who will be there ready to stop you in your tracks, ready to limit you in your tracks. So you have to be mindful of them. But should that stop you? Should that prevent you from making that move? Should that stop you from taking the leap? No. No. You see? So unlike humans, animals do not have the prerogative of making that choice. Nature being so beautiful, yet it's a no-nonsense taskmaster. You know, does this explain why animals do not procrastinate? I think so. I think so. For animals, when the season is right, they move without compromise. Okay? Without compromise. So, for example, leopards and crocodile are both formidable predators. But it is not uncommon to find a leopard feasting on a croc. Okay? It is not uncommon to find a leopard feasting on a croc. Does this does not go, even though this does not go down without a fight. But you see, so the leopard knew it was time for feast. It was hungry and probably there were nothing else at the time for jumping. And so most times for them to jump into that lake and grab a croc from the back of their neck or something, you know, and bring them out, and croc will be kicking and punching the air. And that day, they are meal for the leopard. And so it's the same for us humans. It's time for us to start thinking about that situation. But for me, I think it's because we have the prerogative, because we can make these decisions, we can reason. Why do we have to wait until there are no other options? Of course, they said necessity is the mother of invention. But why do we have to wait until there is no other option before we do that move, before we take that plunge? No way. No way. You have to think ahead. You have to think ahead. Oh yes, you just need to do it just once. And once you do it, you're now getting into the killing habit. You see, when you take that leap into, I'm using the analogy of the leopard, and you get a croc out, whatever croc is for you in your own world, you think about it. But when you bring that croc out, listen, you now have a taste of adventure. And you now starting to get bold at making that adventure. You see, recently I was watching this, there was a video on Facebook, and there was this dog and a young, I think it was a teenage lioness. And the lioness didn't know what to do with the dog. And the dog was everyone was saying the dog was brave. But the lioness didn't know how to hunt. You see? So when the dog started barking that loud, the lioness didn't know what to do. If it were a matured lioness, you only hear that dog bark once. And then the next one will be scribbles. And then it's over. And so once you now become a formidable hunter, you can do it at ease. But you need to take the first leap. Are you prepared to break from the mundane, the routine, the obvious, by challenging yourself to a new endeavor, new height, It might be something as grandiose as climbing Mount Everest, or as seemingly trivial as making your bed in the morning, immediately you got up from bed. And I would love to see somebody saying, I'm taking a leap in uncharted waters by making my bed in the morning. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Oh, goodness. But us humans, unlike animals, enjoy the prerogative of making choice. However, choice is a double-edged sword. Okay? On one hand, it can empower us to act, whilst on the other hand, it can paralyze you and thus prevent you from exercising your willpower, resulting in procrastination. I give credence to early humans who roamed the earth. They, by necessity, had to move from one location to another, mainly hunting and gathering. And they were doing all this stuff because they were actually pushed to do that. And that was nature for them. But the humans have evolved over the years, and the hunting ground has changed. Okay? So when now we talk about leaping in uncharted waters, are you actually leaping in the physical water? It might be, because there are people who actually, that's what they do. But in most cases, it's in the concrete jungles of the city. Okay? It's in the concrete jungles of the city. It's in the concrete jungles of the township where you are. It's in the concrete jungle of your school, your university, on the streets of a big city. Okay? So we're now talking about community, order, social structure, which for all of its merits also became the biggest hindrance for mankind. You are born into a social structure, for example, that has been inadvertently designed to kill initiative, stifle creativity, feeds on doubt and fear, provide a perfect alibi for procrastination. As society became more organized, then also began restrictions and limitations that made hunting more sophisticated, but also restricted. So you don't now just go and hunt. Even in rural areas, you don't just hunt anymore. There are restrictions. How do you navigate these restrictions in the face of also trying to be bold? It's something to think about. You see, and most notably, the restrictions that now prevent one from easily jumping in uncharted waters are mostly unspoken. But that said, should that stop you from actually taking that leap? If it were easy, everyone would do it. It is because you have what it takes. That's why you are thinking the way you think. That's why you're getting the nudge to do what you want to do, but you're just being scared. So some of the restrictions now, are now so enshrined in the human mind. They are tattooed in the human mind, formidable, being formidable as ever. So quite recently, well, not very recently, I was about to start a new job somewhere, and I was so anxious about that role. And the level of anxiousness I had wasn't about whether I was capable of doing the job. Okay? I had the ability, the capacity to do the job. But I was just worried about the people I was going to meet. And in the face of that fear, I actually went. I took the leap. I confront my fears. Great organization. And my mind, which has the tactical advantage over me, was coming up with all sort of things. Okay? All sort of things my mind was coming up with. And But then I embraced my fears and I showed up. And it turns out that my line manager was one of the best I have ever been fortunate to work with. And so during our personal one-to-one catch-up, I explained, to him about my fears, and he said, "We're just people." And that statement has stuck with me for so long, and have actually transformed me. Okay, so whenever I'm faced with those kind of circumstances, whether I'm going to a meeting where I have to do a presentation, or I'm going to a meeting where I have to take the lead, and all that sort of stuff, or I'm being put on the spot, look, I just say to myself, we are just people. And as such, all of us have our own things that we're dealing with. And so at that very moment, I could start watching other people, and I can see when it's their turn to say something, I could see how uncomfortable sometimes they are. And then I realized that, no, this is not but just me. It's a phenomenon. But then once you're in the habit of doing it over and over, pretty much, it becomes much easier for you to handle. It becomes much easier for you to deal with. Then, thereafter, you get civilized and you settle in your native environment. You see, because initially I was not a native in that particular environment. And then thereafter I became a native. And then I start finding things easy and comfortable. And I'll tell you what, I would have sat there, I would have decided to stay and spend as long as, many years as possible, and decide not to move on. You see, but I said no. I'm going for more adventure. I think it's really good for one to adopt the principle of unstackling the nest from time to time. Okay, take for example the eagles. They always start on the nest for the young chicks to fly off, the eaglets or so forth. And if you don't do that, they become lazy. And so I want you to think about uncharted waters. I want you to imagine there's something in your mind this moment that you want to do. There's something that you're truly passionate about, but you're scared. You're afraid. You have relevant reasons. You have valid reasons. But trust me, if you hold to those reasons, you'll never do the things that you truly want to achieve in life, the things that will free you up. I want you to buy your freedom by taking the first leap. Take the first bungee jump. Whether it's a bungee jump by doing a new job or moving to a new location, whatever it is, I want you to think about that thing and confront it. Move in uncharted waters. Your mind is your greatest asset. The more jumps you make, you're actually creating new neural pathways in your mind, in your brain. Those neural pathways will now be crystallized and strengthened, and now your subconscious mind will pick from that. And your subconscious mind rewrites your program. And by rewriting your program, you can now be able to do the things you were once afraid of. You are now being able to do those things easily. And, not that you'll never be scared to do them, but you know that it's just a matter of doing it. And once you do it, it becomes a second nature. Take the jump now. Take the move today. I want to encourage you. Don't hold back. Take the move. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I encourage you to support the Creative Mastermind. Follow this channel, like us, and follow us. Send your questions. We appreciate you for all your support, and we love you. Sign out.